Hello there. Sorry it's been a minute. It's just the usual work stuff, and I wanted the next video to be a hotfix video again, but honestly, I'm probably going to scrap it for now. So, here's the highlights.
It's not a fucking Bladestorm video!
It wasn't that fun. Anyway, and for the 82 people who saw my last video, which quickly got removed because it turns out the last patch made it irrelevant, sorry about that. If you want to watch it, I got a Discord server now, and there's an unlisted video link in there. And if you notice the Discord server before I release this video, you got a fancy roll for being observant. Anyway, I wanted to make a video since I've got nothing stockpiled, and I'm more behind than I was hoping. So I wanted to do a quick one on some of my favourite weapons, as well as some Riven mods that I have. I usually don't talk about Rivens because I don't think a build should come with a gambling addiction. So let's start small. The single Viper has a Conclave Universal mod called Skull Shots. On headshot you get 100% ammo efficiency for 2 seconds. It makes a nice little room clearer at low levels, but as it starts to scale up, the Viper's lackluster stats really hold it back. To the point where, for the rest of this video, only the Viper Wraith exists. So adding Hornet Strike will bring you up to 57.6 damage. Now you could go down the route of adding a bunch of elemental damage, and if you maximise that you'll be able to push 1000 damage a shot, but that costs 7 former. And I may have brain damage and can't read, but I'm not fucking stupid. I only use 6. What I'm trying to make is, this weapon actually doesn't really benefit from Hornet Strike because of its piss poor base stats. And having to push that 1000 damage is all well and good. But Cascadian Power does 750 instant elemental damage on proc. So let's just use that as our base instead. So instead of going in for damage, we want to instead dump into stats chance. Is that all not good enough for you? Alright Dad, you can also make a pretty similar setup using secondary encumber, which comes with a fun addition of gambling. So every now and again, not only will the enemy die, they may have wacky sound effects. Still not enough? I mean, I don't know, man, you could use primary acuity. It actually makes for a kind of monstrous crit weapon, and I'd say it's a nice mid-ground between the two other setups in terms of sustainability versus damage, but you do have to get those headshots pretty consistently, which admittedly is really easy when the enemies aren't breaking it down because of the procs. Now we can also do something similar with a Grakata, which only gets a 0.5 second duration, but you can use it with Wild Frenzy to dump your magazine even quicker. But with the Prisma Grakata's huge magazine size, you can get a sizable damage buff from primary plated rounds. Though, personally, I prefer my slow Kata Ribbon. Beautiful. Both these weapons can take you most of the way through Steel Path, but start to fall off towards the end of the star chart. Unfortunately, as of right now, I can't find a way to push them any further by themselves, so why don't I just show you one of my many set loadouts? Garuda's perfect for these weapons. Her 4th ability allows you to mark an enemy so they take guaranteed slash procs, so by using both of these alongside the mecha set, you can make a pretty effective slash nuke. So how do I set up my build? Fucking weirdly. This is going to take some explaining. So Garuda's other powers are relatively simple on their own, but I've tailored this build to make Garuda very much live on the edge of survival, while also still being tanky. First off, I've only put armor on her. This is because I only have room for one defensive slot, and the difference between adding vitality versus adding steel fiber comes to a difference of 370 effective health. So I've chosen to sacrifice that effective health and remove Blood Altar and put on Well of Life. Blood Altar heals you on a percentage, meaning it'll exponentially get slower the closer you are to maximum health. Instead, Well of Life heals at a fixed 1-to-1 ratio with your power strength. Put down 3 of these towers and now Garuda's regenerating your entire health bar in less than half a second. So you can just spam Bloodletting to max out your energy and reload your weapons whenever you want, which will also activate primary plated rounds. Anyway, moving on to the next weapon. I like to call this weapon the Skill Check, or alternatively, Quincy Won't Let Me In. It's pretty simple. You put every single headshot multiplier mod you can get on this thing, and it starts to hit with the funny numbers when you get a headshot, but it's unbelievably punishing when you miss. It's funny because this weapon actually starts to miss the point if you play at low enough levels, because a body shot just starts to kill things. But that means the Vulcar is now a status symbol. If you see someone using this and getting high numbers of kills in a bi-level area, that guy's going fucking godlike. Not me though, my hand shaked too much from the draw, so I can't aim for shit. Because of that, I like the Sporothix. The new augment makes it explode, and you just max out multi-shot and use it like a shotgun. But if you really want to get crazy, find 2 friends. Mission failed. One is Jade, one is Nidus. Nidus buffs Jade, Jade buffs power strength, and then Nidus buffs you as Saren. Use Toxic Lash and Venom Dose, and kill everything in a 5-mile radius with 1 button press.
Okay.
Jat Kittag is my go-to melee weapon. I love it because it does this. Vulcan Blitz is also a very funny augment. Because of the insane knockback of its passive, combined with Melee Affliction's ability to rack up status effects quickly, you occasionally just turn enemies into artillery strikes.
Fuck off the bus! No.
Me and my boy were theory crafting around melee Doughty because, let's be real, it's a really fucking weird arcane since it scales off both the amount of status you do, but also the percentage of your damage to puncture. But then it buffs your crit, so you need a very strange kind of hybrid weapon to take advantage of it. And you also need to not use Volt because his passive ruins the damage distribution. It's really fucking annoying. As far as a build goes, you want to maximize your status using melee prowess, sweeping wounds, and jungulus bards as a puncture dual stat mod. Add on Auger Strike for a bit of extra puncture on top of that, and then crit with a combination of Blood Rush and Galvanized Steel. That way you get more damage on kill and more chance on combo counter. And finally, for Tenokai, I use Conditions Perfect. Does this actually apply to melee Doughty? I'll be honest with you, I've got no idea. I'd just like to think it's not shit anymore. And finally, you have one flexi slot. This will depend on what weapon you're using this setup on. Speaking of which, there's some great weapons for this build. The Velox Sidon's a fantastic choice because it has high status and decent crit, though this build doesn't really let you take advantage of its passive, so I like to put finishing touch on the flexi slot. If you don't want to be fancy and just fucking kill things, go with the Halakar. This one's a bit stranger, but can also do this. This is because the Doughty buff is based off the weapon damage, but the explosion still inherits the Doughty buff from the base stats, so it turns it into a nuclear bomb. I swap off melee prowess for volatile flight and use Galvanized Elementalist in the flexi slot. There are some participation trophies as well. Telos Boltair sounds good on paper, but it's wank. Pennantite, Ceramic Dagger's always goated. Harmony's pretty good if you hybrid the build with heat. I'm not building a normal Distresser even if it does have a higher puncture distribution than the Prime, but the Onku has a 70% distribution to puncture, and with its ability to augment critical and status chance with its 4th perk, and it's guaranteed +3 range and slash procs for 6 seconds after a sliding attack. You saw what we just did with the Halakar. Stick Galvanized Elementalist on this bitch and go Beyblade around. It's a pretty fun weapon, not the most powerful, but the fun part to me is the simple knowledge that every time I hit a red crit, in that brief moment, I'm doing 89.1 times damage. And I just think that's wonderful. This weapon's so shit. Look, I know it's on the list, and I'm a sucker for a good old-fashioned boots-on-the-ground assault rifle. And what I love even more than a classic rifle is something that can change functionality on the fly. Not in a magical Incarnon way either, a mechanical or modular system is where it's at. So it breaks my heart to say the Ambassador, a cool as fuck assault rifle with a mechanical system that changes to an alternate form that both looks and sounds amazing, fucking blows. Let's go through the list, shall we? The auto fire does mediocre damage. It's got dog shit crit in both forms. It does decent status for an auto weapon, but it's in pure electric, meaning if you want to try and take advantage of something like Galvanized Shot, you need to add 3 mods or you're stuck with Radiation and Magnetic. It takes ages to reload, and since the reload speed is tied to the changing forms, you need to take out planning permission before you can properly stretch out your rifle. Its alternate form is a marksman weapon, and yet it doesn't increase the zoom at all. The Velt zooms in. It even pops out a scope on the Ambassador. What the fuck is happening? Its alt fire actually does really good damage. It's comparable with some snipers and explosive weapons, but it only has 2 shots before it gets stuck in that long-ass reloading animation. Unfortunately, diagnosing this weapon with Ballistica Syndrome. So why am I talking about it? Because it does this. You see how cool that is? So we can fix the Ambassador build like this. Fix the reload and mode switch speed with fast hands, add viral dual stats and galvanized shot to load up tons of electric procs quickly, and buff out headshot crit chance. This might not make sense, but that's because we want to be going for headshots with our auto fire to build up primary crooks. So when we swap to our alt fire, we can shoot more than twice thanks to the ammo efficiency. And with the increased reload / swap speed, the Ambassador becomes an incredibly versatile tactical rifle. Honestly though, it really shouldn't take this much to get a gun going. See this ribbon? Take off the cold status, make this the weapon's base stats, and this thing would be absolutely brilliant. Or, if all of that's too much for you, just put secondary Innovate on a Velox. Okay, let's talk about the Tigris. I love this thing. It can maul its way through the entire star chart and steel path, and it's all around just a fun weapon, and especially when combined with Shotgun Vendetta. But I want to show off this specimen of natural selection enforcement because of the ribbon I have. Look at this shit. So, the Tigris has a duplex trigger. The first round goes off when you press the trigger, second round goes off when you let go. This means fire rate doesn't affect the time between shots, it instead only affects the time between the second shot and reloading. So if you have a lot of negative fire rate, after your second shot you'll have to wait like 5 seconds to reload, or you can cancel it and reload manually. This also applies to all single shot weapons too. The Vectis, the Exegus, and funnily enough, it's also why Precision Strike on the Tonkor feels so shit. By itself, Precision Strike doesn't feel like it does that much because of the Tonkor's slow fire rate, but spamming reload while you use it makes it feel like it functions properly. Anyway, we've had a lot of fun here with weapons today, but I know why you're really here. You want to see the actual most powerful weapon in the game. Well, I've sat down with my team and we've worked it out mathematically, and it leads to one very clear answer. The Mark 1 Bratton. Look, the Mark 1 Bratton is just based. You can have your fancy schmancy Bratton Primes and Bratton Vandals, but you'll take my Mark 1 Bratton away from my cold dead fucking hands. Here's the build, here's the Incarnons, go shoot some bastards. Anyway, this new update kind of ruined all my plans, so I'm not sure when the next video is going to be. Have a good one either way though. I hope it'll be soon.